I can't take it anymore. It's too much. What's wrong, Mom? Did something happen with Nate and Lisa? My mother, who lives with my brother and his wife, came to my house looking completely worn out. It seemed that she had been treated terribly by them and was kicked out of her own home in the end. I can't bear it any longer. I don't want to go home. My mother was crouching down, unable to contain herself, letting out her words. Filled with anger, I headed to my brother's house. Our father had already passed away, so my brother and I are the only family my mother has left. I couldn't forgive my brother for cornering my mother like this along with his wife. I decided to protect my mother from this despicable brother and his wife, but the situation that awaited me was even worse than I had imagined. Don't worry, Mom, I'm here for you. I spoke to my mother as I saw her tense expression. She nodded slowly and placed her hand over her heart as if trying to calm it down. When I rang the doorbell, I heard someone say, coming in a high-pitched voice. It was my sister-in-law. Oh, what's going on? Stella, where have you been? We've been worried about you. You don't know anything? Anyway, let us in. Sure, but please don't stay too long. My sister-in-law displayed a clear expression of displeasure without even trying to hide it. She acted like the true head of the house, treating us as if we were guests. No, more like strangers. Huh? What's up? Both of you are here? My brother was sprawled out on a large sofa, watching TV with complete ease. He didn't even bother to get up, just stayed on the sofa and talked to us. I knew what my mother had told me was undoubtedly accurate from his arrogant attitude. You kicked Mom out? What on earth did you do to her? What? Kicked her out? No. When I said that a useless person who can't even do housework is an unfit mother, she left on her own. I couldn't believe the words coming out of my brother's mouth. How could he speak to his own mother like that? It seems that my brother had been forcing our mother to do household chores even when she was running a fever and couldn't move. Of course, my sister-in-law didn't help with the household chores at all and pushed all onto my mother, treating her like a housekeeper. We want to take care of Mom. It was my brother and his wife who had suggested to live with her saying this in the first place. My mother is over 60 years old now, and her health has been deteriorating. As my brother mentioned, she has a fever often. That's why my brother and his wife had started living with my mother out of concern. I've been thinking that way, but it seems I was mistaken. My brother and his wife probably think that it is natural for parents to take care of their children instead of taking care of her. Or at least, that's how their attitude suggests. Otherwise, there's no explanation for my brother and his wife's behavior. I'm getting angrier and angrier, like a dam about to burst. Behind me, my mother is trembling and crouching down. What my brother told me is just the tip of the iceberg. She might have endured even worse. Nate, are you really thinking about Mom? Wasn't it your idea to live with her? Seeing me in such a furious state, my brother burst into laughter. The TV he was watching had a variety show on, and he was laughing at me in the same way as when he was watching the TV show. He didn't even show a hint of remorse. As I was shaking with anger, my brother spat at me without changing his expression at all. It was as if he was speaking, as naturally as breathing. Well, obviously, I said that, because I wanted to live in this house. I'm not doing this as a charity. I just wanted to make this mansion that our father left behind mine. Isn't that obvious? As my brother mentioned, the house where my brother, his wife, and my mother are living is the one our deceased father left behind. In other words, my brother had suggested that they live with my mother, with the intention of getting his hands on our father's inheritance, and using my mother as a maid from the beginning. I could no longer forgive my brother. To think that they've been living with my mother only for their own desires. I won't forgive my brother, who doesn't show a shred of love. I won't let you have this house, Nate. I have rights too. I will never let you, who treat our mother that way, have it. I'll cut ties with you. Hey, hold on a minute. My brother finally got up from the sofa. This house belongs to me since I'm the eldest son. If you're going to blabber on, then you take care of Mom. We got into a heated argument. I had never been so furious in my life that my mind went blank. But if I backed down now, my brother and his wife would get their way. With sweat pouring down my forehead, I desperately continued to speak, determined not to give in. What stopped us was our mother, who had been crouching and shrinking away. Stop it, please, stop. I'll give you the house. With that one sentence, my brother and his wife froze in their tracks. Fine, as long as you get it, my brother said, sprawling back onto the sofa. His wife even lifted the corner of her mouth and smirked. I asked, Mom, why, as I looked at our mother. After enduring such harsh treatment, why would she give in and hand over the house? Wasn't that exactly what my brother wanted? It's okay. I don't want to see my family fighting. Besides, your father wouldn't have wanted that either. When my mother said, I thought, she might be right. Our late father was someone who valued family deeply. He would be sad if he saw us having an ugly argument. On the other hand, my brother and his wife seemed to feel nothing. As I watched them celebrate with their hands in the air, I was filled with frustration. But, please, just one thing. I want you to sign this. My mother said, taking out a piece of paper. It was a written agreement, declaring that they will not give or receive anything after they receive this house. My brother and his wife, who were in high spirits, seemed to feel that as long as they had the mansion, nothing else mattered. He simply said, sure, and signed it, as if he were scribbling on a piece of paper. My mother took the paper, pulled me along, and said, now, let's go. I left the house as if dragged by my mother, and returned home with a sense of regret. At home, my husband was waiting for me. I told him everything that happened today. As I explained the situation, my husband's expression quickly stiffened and turned into anger. After listening to the whole story, my husband frowned, clearly showing his deep disdain for my brother and his wife. Right after that, he suggested that my mother should live with us. It was a matter of just a second, so my husband must have already been considering living together. My husband had always cared for my mother like his own, even before we got married. He valued us far more than my own brother, who was the blood-related family member. From his perspective, what my brother and his wife did was completely unacceptable, and he would never forgive them. I'll do anything I can to help, my husband said, and his expression said it all. I felt truly grateful to my husband. Later on, my mother and I visited my brother and his wife. We had the documents to transfer this mansion. My brother was absolutely elated. So was his wife. She was even humming as she listened to our conversation. My brother signed the document without bothering to read it properly, saying, "I just need to sign here, right?" "You're a fool. You are giving up the rights to this house, just to support this old lady? We'll continue living here comfortably. I'm lucky to have a foolish sister." And with that, he laughed once again. My anger surged once more. I thought about saying something, but my mother pulled me back and told me to let it go, so I swallowed my words and left their house after telling them to never get involved with us again. A few weeks later, I received multiple calls from my brother on my cell phone. My brother and his wife had obtained the house and cut ties with us. Why would there still be anything to discuss? I had been ignoring them, but the calls just wouldn't stop, like a storm. While looking at the extensive call history, I let out a deep sigh and reluctantly answered the phone. "Yes, what is it?" "Hey, do you know about property tax?" My head couldn't catch up with my brother, who had suddenly started talking. Property tax? Is he talking about the property tax we pay annually? I didn't understand why he was bringing it up now. But I decided to hear him out. "Why didn't you say anything? I heard that it's about $50,000 per year." "I didn't know about that. That's why I ignored it. But then they kept sending notifications to pay the property tax." "Well, of course. If you own a building, you have to pay property tax. But I hadn't been paying anything like that, until now." My brother is foolish. He should have researched property tax on the internet or something, before calling. Property owners pay taxes, based on the value of their land and buildings. It's common sense. The location of the mansion is undoubtedly nice, and the value of the building itself hasn't decreased. So, it's only natural that they would receive a substantial bill. "Hey, is Mom there?" "What? I'm not connecting you to Mom. She must have been secretly paying it, with Dad's inheritance. Hey, give us Mom. I'll make her pay this property tax thing." What on earth is my brother talking about? His reasoning is just so self-serving. I'm beyond angry and I'm starting to feel bewildered. Mom is not a tool. What are you thinking? This happened because you said that you wanted the mansion, right? I told you to leave us alone, didn't I? Don't call me ever again. After I said this, I hung up the phone and immediately blocked his number. With this, I doubt I'll ever see my brother and his wife again. No longer bothered by the large number of incoming calls from my brother, our life together as a family, my husband, mother, and me, was going smoothly. Particularly, my mother's health was visibly improving. She stopped having a fever, and she started smiling more and more. Realizing that her health issues were caused by my brother and his wife, I was filled with regret and guilt. I believe that if I had noticed their true nature earlier, my mother wouldn't have had to go through such a difficult time. My heart sank as if a heavy weight had been placed upon it, but it was my husband who treated me kindly. My husband took the lead in doing household chores, while putting even more effort into his work. His desire to support both me and my mother was evident, even without words. I also wanted to support my husband and my mother, and that motivated me to look forward and keep moving. My mother, too, seemed deeply grateful to my husband, and her common phrase became, "I want to do something in return." Some time had passed, and then one day, a shadow was cast over our life. The cause, as expected, was my brother and his wife. My husband and I encountered them in front of a condo. "Hey! What the heck are you doing here?" Apparently, my brother had gone to great lengths to find us and had ended up here. My husband and I, with the condo on our backs, were simply taken aback by my brother's abnormal behavior. Ignoring us, who were speechless, my brother looked up at the condo and said, "Why on earth are you living here? There is no way that you can afford to live here. Are you so upset about losing that mansion to me that you're forcing yourselves to rent here and thought you'd get back at me?" He laughed once again, and the way he laughed made my blood boil. In reality, the condo behind us is a so-called luxury condominium. Yes, my husband and I had moved into this condo with my mother. I calmly replied, "Let me tell you why we live here. You remember our grandfather, Mom's father, right? Ah, that old man. He always looked down on me, and I've disliked him since way back. Grandpa was a big landowner and owned some apartment buildings," I said. My brother's movements came to an abrupt halt, and his face contorted. "Huh? I've never heard of that. Quit making stuff up. It's not a lie. It's the truth. You're the only one who didn't know." My brother's face started to turn red, and he grew angrier. His previously relaxed attitude was gone, and he trembled all over, showing his anger. In fact, my mother had been entrusted with apartment management by our grandfather, and she had been suggesting that we move here with her since the time she started saying, "I want to do something in return," as if it were her catchphrase. However, the move to the condo was initially planned for my brother and his wife as a way of repaying them for offering her to live with them, saying for the sake of Mom. She was going to wait until they had children. But my brother and his wife treated her like a housekeeper and attempted to exploit her solely for their desires. I believe that she didn't say anything about the apartment management because she suspected that she would be exploited by them. If you were to see my brother and his wife, who are now in front of me, raging with anger, it would be quite obvious. "Hey, we don't need Mom, so give us the money from managing the apartments instead. You've deceived us, haven't you? We won't leave that house. Your mother should pay the property tax." They are selfish to the core. They're such pitiful people, and I wanted to laugh at them. But instead, my body tensed up. My brother and his wife, who had identified our place of residence and stormed in, honestly scared me. I realized once again that they would do anything for their desires, and it's a shame, but I became too scared to say anything. My husband, again, was the one who saved me from this situation. As he listened to the conversation next to me, my husband had a more terrifying expression than my brother and his wife. He had a face like a demon. "You two, cut it out. What do you think of your own mother? You have no right to tell us anything. Just shut up. I can't stay silent," my husband said decisively, and then he began to speak, bit by bit. My husband grew up in a single-parent household. He lost his mother when he was young. His father tried to prevent him from feeling lonely by showering him with love every day, but my husband still longed for his mother countless times. With that background, my husband had always treated my mother as if she were his own, with kindness and affection. However, my husband's words like that didn't seem to affect him at all. He's no longer human. He's a money-hungry monster. My husband appeared to have felt that it was pointless to say anything to my brother and his wife, so he went ahead and said what he had prepared. "We're going to sue you." My brother seemed to take my husband's words as a joke. He shrugged his shoulders condescendingly as if to say, "If you can do it, go ahead," and looked at his wife. But my sister-in-law tried desperately to stop him. Whether she finally understood my husband's seriousness, or she was surprised because she never expected that we'd take legal actions, my sister-in-law revealed an expression of desperation she hadn't shown before. "Wait a minute, stop it. It'll get complicated if it goes to court." After my sister-in-law told him that, my brother lowered his raised fist. My brother may not have understood my husband's seriousness, but my sister-in-law clearly did. "Are we really going to court? Is this serious?" Quite late in the game, but my brother appeared to be reflecting on his actions. He stopped moving completely. "There's no need to sue them." My mother's voice came from behind. It seemed she had rushed in after hearing my brother and his wife shouting. "I heard everything. Thank you so much for going as far as considering taking legal action for my sake." My mother gently grasped my husband's hands with both of hers, and thanked him. "You're such a fool, you know." In the end, she chose me who is blood related. Mom is on my side. I was scared for a moment. But it's fine. With this, our lives are secure. My brother and his wife completely believed that my mother was on their side. However, my mother delivered a surprising statement. "I'll sue them instead." My brother and his wife's eyes widened in shock. My mother then showed them a piece of paper. "Yes, it's a written agreement. Do you remember this? Your signature is clearly here." "What does it say?" "It says we won't give or receive anything after we receive the mansion." This agreement was carefully written, with legal advice from a lawyer, so it's legally binding. I can give you money if you want, but think about it with that in mind. Mom, please wait. I'll apologize for everything I have done to you. Forgive us, please. I'll do anything and everything. He must be saying this because he is just worried about money. Without receiving money, they can't pay the property tax. However, they had already signed the agreement stating that they wouldn't receive anything else after receiving the mansion. When they were told that if they wanted money, legal action would be taken, it seems my brother finally grasped his dire situation. My husband, my mother, and I could all see right through him. My sister-in-law appeared to be no different. That's why we will never forgive them. If you wander around here again, we'll report you immediately. This time, please make sure to stay out of our lives. With those words, we left them behind and walked away. Subsequently, my mother, with the help of a lawyer, proceeded with the legal proceedings and sued my brother and his wife, seeking compensation. What she sued them for was their past mistreatment towards her. My mother, feeling sad, had gathered evidence in the form of audio recordings and text messages. There's no way my brother and his wife, who can't even pay property taxes, could afford to pay compensation. They ended up being forced out of that grand mansion. Thank you so much. My mother expressed her gratitude, and it was directed towards my husband. She continued, because you were here for us. Both my daughter and I have come this far. It's all thanks to you. My husband replied with a smile. That's what a family is for. People like my brother, who use and mistreat others like tools, and don't even feel gratitude for being raised, will end up in hell. This is a result of their own actions. We hope that my brother might reflect on his actions, but at this point, it's no longer our concern. The three of us, my husband, my mother, and I, are a true family, and we enjoy a happy and harmonious life together.